I am Sharka Shafiq from MPhil 2nd, and today I am going to present on a topic for the course of psycholinguistics. So the topic that I am going to present on is comprehension of discourse or discourse comprehension. Here are the outlines. First of all, I will tell you about some of the objectives of today's topic, that why today's topic is significant. Then I will define discourse, then I will explain what is discourse comprehension, then how can we comprehend discourse. Then there will be discussion about three-stage process in discourse comprehension, then local and global discourse structure and their role in the comprehension of discourse, then comprehension of connected discourse, then memory for discourse and the role of memory for discourse comprehension, and at the end I will be concluding my presentation. So let's begin with the objectives of today's topic. Today's topic is significant because the topic will help us to analyze the role and importance of discourse comprehension. It will also enable us to clearly understand the process of discourse understanding. The topic will tell us that how discourse comprehension helps us to improve our process of reading. Also, we will be able to know each process that each one takes and belongs in being able to know to improve comprehension. So these were some of the objectives of today's topic. Now let's move towards the definition of discourse, that what is discourse. Discourse is basically the combination of a prefix that is des and a root word that is courier, which means run away. It is a Latin word, so we can say that the discourse is derived from Latin prefix des meaning away and the root word curi means to run away. Discourse therefore translates to run away and refers to the way that conversations flow. To study discourse is to analyze the use of spoken or written language in a social context. Also, we know that discourse refers to the spoken language and it is also the language beyond a sentence. Now, after the definition of discourse, we have discourse comprehension. What is discourse comprehension? According to Sparks 2012, discourse comprehension or comprehension requires a fairly automatized phonological process of binding and separating components of language. Separating components of language into units and can constitute knowledge to be said. And also we can say that discourse combination is the process in which we analyze the different types of discourse like the stories, the lectures and the sermons. And research on discourse has grown significantly in recent decades for several reasons. For example, because we rarely speak in isolated sentences, discourse seems to be a more natural unit of language to investigate. Also, discourse or the sentences are ambiguous or obscure apart from their discourse context. The most important discourse provides a rich source of material for those interested in the cognitive processes used in language. Discourse imposes a considerable burden on working memory while at the same time drawing heavily from our permanent memory. So it was a little bit introduction about discourse comprehension. Now let's define what is discourse comprehension. Discourse comprehension is basically the act of interpreting a written or spoken message by integrating the incoming information into the memory or knowledge structure of the interpreter. We can say that as such it involves building meaning from both small and extended segments of language, including conversations, articles, novels, and so on. Now next comes the three-stage process in discourse comprehension. The three-stage process of comprehending sentence in discourse are: first is the identification of new and given information. The second stage is that of finding an antecedent for the given information. And the third is attaching the new information to the memory location defined by the antecedent. So if we explain the three-stage process in discourse comprehension, we can say that identifying the given and new information in the current sentence, finding an antecedent for the given information, and attaching the new information to the memory location defined by the antecedent, comprehension is impeded when there is no antecedent. It forced us to form a bridging inference, or when the antecedent was not recent, forced us to reinstate the antecedent. After that comes the local and global structure of discourse, and what is the role of local and global structure in the discourse comprehension. So basically a discourse structure has two levels: local discourse and global discourse. The local discourse is also known as microdiscourse, and it is the relationships between individual sentences in the discourse, while global discourse or macrostructure is our knowledge of the structure corresponding to the subjects that enable us to comprehend and remember the shorter passage about the particular subject. Now, if we talk about the role of local and global discourse in the comprehension of discourse, then we can say that both levels of structure contribute to the coherence of a text. The degree to which different parts, like the words, the sentences, or the paragraphs of a text, are connected to one another. So we can say that both these structures, these are like the global structure or the local structure, brings coherence to the text. And also it tells us that how words can be combined to form sentences, and how sentences can be combined to form paragraphs, and how these three can be combined together in order to bring coherence to the discourse. Now next come the comprehension of connected discourse. If we talk about the comprehension of connected discourse, then we can say that comprehension of connected discourse depends less on the meaning of the individual sentences than on their arrangements. Indeed, comprehension of connected discourse, it is entirely possible for a group of meaningful sentences to be thrown together in a way that makes no sense at all. Now the next point is that of memory, like what is the role of memory for the comprehension of discourse. Then there were few researchers whose names are mentioned here. They basically proposed that there are three distinct levels of memory. It has been proposed that our memory for discourse exists on three distinct levels. First level is that of a structure representation. Second is that of propositional representation of discourse. And third and the last is the construction of a situational model of the discourse. If we explain these three levels, then we can say that first level, that is the surface representation, in which we remember the exact words that we encountered. Second is the stage that we construct a propositional representation of the discourse, which specifies the meaning apart from the exact words used. These two levels are obviously similar to the corresponding levels in our memory for sentences. The third stage is that of we construct a situational model of the discourse, which is a model of the state of affairs in the world and is described in the passage. And also these three researchers has discussed that how these three levels, like the first level of surface representation and the second level of propositional representation and the third level of construction of a situational model, how can they help us in defining or in explaining the process of comprehension of discourse, and how memory is helpful in how it is used for the comprehension of discourse. Now let's move towards conclusion. If we conclude today's topic, that is the comprehension of discourse or discourse comprehension, we can say that to study discourse is to analyze the use of spoken or written language in a social context. Discourse can be comprehended in many ways. There is a role of memory and connected discourse in discourse comprehension. Also, the global structure of discourse, connected discourse, or the local structure of discourse are helpful in determining how can we comprehend discourse. And also we store discourse in three ways, like the surface representations, prepositional representation, situational models, and each appears to be influenced by different variables like subject to different decay rates. Surface representation are short-lived except when the wording is pragmatically significant. So we can say that propositional representations are much better retained and include the meanings of presented information along with any references we have drawn. And also the situational models are retained the best and are based on spatial or causal relations between parts of a text. So here are some of the references, and that's all. It was all about my presentation, that is the comprehension of discourse or discourse comprehension for psycholinguistics.